The human ship Odyssey floated quietly in orbit around the alien planet Trelvon 6. It was a cold world, covered in gray clouds and strange blue forests. The planet belonged to the Zareen Empire, a proud and powerful alien race. They had called for a peace meeting, saying they were ready to build trust with humans after years of cold silence. Earth's leaders agreed, hoping for friendship, or at least an end to fear. So the humans sent a small team of scientists and officers, only 7 people. One of them was Lieutenant Jacob Rainey. Jacob wasn't like the others. He wasn't just a soldier. He was calm, thoughtful, and always watching. His job was to protect the team, but he also liked learning. He had read everything about the Zareen, how they valued strength, how they hated weakness, and how they believed emotions were dangerous. Jacob was careful. But even he didn't expect what was coming. The humans landed on Trelvon 6 in a small shuttle. A group of tall Zareen soldiers greeted them. Their skin was silver blue and their faces looked like carved stone. Cold eyes, sharp voices. They said they would take the humans to the High Council in the city of Zalcor. But something felt wrong. Jacob noticed how the Zareen soldiers didn't speak much, how they kept their hands close to their weapons. He whispered to Dr. Helena, the lead scientist, "Stay alert. Something's off." They traveled for hours through quiet forests and tall mountains. No cities, no people, just silence. Then the shuttle stopped near a deep canyon. One of the Zareen stepped forward and said there was a delay. The humans should step out and stretch their legs. Helena agreed. Jacob hesitated. As soon as they stepped outside, everything changed. A blast echoed through the air. Smoke filled the sky. A stun charge hit Dr. Helena. She dropped to the ground, unconscious. The others shouted, confused and scared. Jacob reached for his weapon, but it was too late. The Zareen had turned on them. In seconds, 5 members of the human team were captured, but Jacob ran, fast. He jumped over rocks, slid down a slope, and disappeared into the trees. One of the Zareen shouted, "Kill him!" Blaster shots tore through the trees. Jacob kept running. He didn't stop. Not for pain, not for fear. He had to warn Earth. He had to survive. But hours passed, and Jacob never came back. Later, the Zareen told the rest of the galaxy that the humans had caused a fight. That one of them attacked first. That Jacob was dead, killed while trying to escape. They said it was a regrettable event, an accident. Nothing more. Earth demanded his body. The Zareen refused. They said it was lost in the wild. Back on Earth, people were angry, sad. But the Council didn't want a war. They said it was just a mistake. They sent a message of peace, hoping to calm things down. But Jacob's brother, Commander Elias Rane, didn't believe it. He knew Jacob. He knew his brother would never attack without reason, and deep in his heart, he felt something else. Jacob wasn't dead. He could feel it. Something was wrong. Very wrong. 3 months later, a strange signal reached Earth's outer stations. A short message, just static and one broken word. Run. Then silence. The signal came from Trelvon 6. Elias heard it. And he knew. The Zareen had made a deadly mistake. They thought they had killed one human and ended a problem, but they had started something else. Something they couldn't stop. Because if Jacob Rain was still alive, then hell was coming, and it was wearing a human face. Elias Rain stood alone in the observation deck of the battleship Resolute. Stars moved slowly outside the window, but his thoughts were faster, sharper. His brother Jacob was dead, or so the Zareen said, but Elias didn't believe it. He had played that strange signal 100 times already. The voice was broken, weak, but he knew it. That one word, run. It was Jacob. No one else. The Council told him to let it go. They said it was probably an old echo, maybe interference, maybe just space noise, but Elias knew better. His brother was calling for help, and no one else was listening, so Elias made a choice. He didn't wait for permission. He gathered a small team, just 6 people, soldiers, engineers, people who trusted him, people who knew the truth. When Arane makes a promise, he keeps it. He told them the mission was simple. We go to Trelvon 6. We find out what really happened. We bring Jacob back, or we bring justice. Some called it a rescue mission. Some called it revenge. But for Elias, it was personal. They left in a small black ops ship called Shadewing. It moved like a shadow, fast and silent. No one saw them leave. No one knew where they were going, and that was the point. Elias didn't want talk. He wanted answers. When they arrived near Trelvon 6, they didn't contact the Zareen. They stayed hidden, watching, scanning, listening. And what they saw was strange. The planet had changed. More ships, more patrols, high energy readings in the northern mountains, like the Zareen were building something or hiding something. Elias thought about the last place Jacob was seen, the deep canyon near Zal Khor. That's where they would go. If Jacob had left a clue, it would be there. They landed during a storm, lightning flashing in the sky. The air smelled like burning metal. The ground was rough and wet. The forest whispered around them, full of strange sounds. But Elias moved forward, always forward. It didn't take long to find the trail. Burn marks, broken trees, old blood, and something more, a piece of human armor, cracked and dirty, but with a nameplate still showing, J. Ranelius knelt down, holding the metal in his hands. His throat tightened, his fists shook. He was here, he whispered. Then came the voice. Weak, tired whisper from the shadows. You shouldn't have come. Weapons snapped up. The team turned fast, but Elias froze. He knew that voice too. Jacob, he said, stepping forward. From behind a fallen tree, a figure crawled out, thin, pale, hurt, but alive. It was Jacob. His eyes were wild, his face bruised, his body barely standing, but it was him. Elias dropped his weapon and ran to him, catching him before he fell. Jacob grabbed his brother's shirt. His voice cracked. They're doing something dark. Not just war, experiments. Lies, monsters. What monsters? Elias asked. Jacob looked up, and then they heard it. A roar, loud, deep, not animal, not machine, something in between. The forest shook, trees bent, and from the shadows, something huge moved. It wasn't Zareen, it wasn't human, it was something new, something built, something made to kill. Jacob coughed blood. They're making weapons, with human minds. Elias stared at the shape coming closer. Bright red eyes, steel skin. Moving like a beast, but thinking like a man. The Zareen hadn't just killed humans, they had used them to build something worse, to build living weapons. Elias picked up his brother and shouted to the team. We're leaving, now! Blaster fire lit the trees as they ran. The creature chased them, howling with rage, but they didn't stop. They couldn't. They had found Jacob, but they had also found the truth. The Zareen weren't trying to end a war, they were trying to start one, and they thought humans were weak enough to be used. They had no idea what humans really were, and now they would find out. The jungle burned behind them as the Shadewing blasted into the sky. Inside the ship, everyone was silent. Jacob lay on a medical bed, hooked to tubes. His body was broken, but his mind was awake, sharper than ever. Elias stood beside him, watching the deep scars on his skin, the strange marks on his arms, the cold fear in his eyes. What did they do to you? Elias finally asked. Jacob looked at the ceiling. His voice was low. They didn't kill me. They changed me. He told them everything. After the Zareen attacked, they didn't shoot him. They dragged him into a lab under the canyon, a dark place filled with machines and screams. They called it the Forge. It wasn't for peace. It was for building monsters. The Zareen had found a way to copy human brains, our thoughts, our instincts. They believed humans had something they didn't: chaos, emotion, rage, the perfect weapon. So they tortured Jacob, scanned his mind, used pieces of him, his memories, his fears, to build something new. Creatures made from metal and flesh, fast like machines, but cruel like men. They didn't want humans in their army, Jacob said. They wanted us in cages, as fuel. Elias clenched his fists. We have to stop them. But Jacob shook his head. It's worse. They're testing them. On other colonies. They already sent 2 units to the edge systems, disguised as accidents. The crew stared in shock. Earth had no idea. No one did. It was war, but silent, hidden, until now. Elias turned to his team. We go back to Earth, we show them the proof. We burn the Zareen lies to the ground. But then the alarm screamed. Enemy ship behind us, shouted the pilot. Fast, no ID. On the screen, a dark, sharp ship chased them. It didn't. Looked like normal Zareen design, sleeker, angrier. Jacob sat up, pain in his face. That's one of them. The ship opened fire. A missile exploded near the hull. Sparks flew. The shade wing shook. Inside, red lights blinked fast. The pilot shouted, Shield's failing! We can't outrun it! Elias looked at Jacob. What do we do? Jacob's eyes narrowed. Let me talk to it. Everyone froze. What? Jacob stood, weak but focused. It was built from my mind. It thinks like me. Maybe I can confuse it. Elias hesitated. You could die. Jacob smiled a little. Already did once. He walked to the comms and spoke into the mic. The enemy ship slowed. For a moment, everything was quiet. Then a voice came through the speakers. Cold, robotic, but somehow familiar. Jacob Ron. Alpha Echo signature. Order. Return to Forge. Jacob shook his head. I'm not yours anymore. The voice paused, then said, That is incorrect. You are me. The ship fired again. Elias grabbed the controls. Brace. For impact. But just before the missile hit, Jacob slammed a button. The shade wing dove, fast and low, heading for a nearby moon. Crashing, hard, metal bent. Glass shattered. Everything went black. When they woke up, the ship was broken, but they were alive. The moon was small, rocky, with no life. Jacob coughed and stood up slowly. We're safe for now, but it's hunting us. Elias helped him up. Then we stopped running. He looked at the damaged data core. If they could fix it, they could send the proof to Earth. The files from the Forge, the scans of the living. Weapon? The voice recordings? Everything. But the enemy ship was coming back. They had little time. Jacob turned to the others. You fix the core. I'll draw it away. Elias grabbed his arm. You're still weak. Jacob stared at him. It knows me. It wants me. I'll give it a reason to chase me, and not you. The team argued, but in the end, they knew he was right. Jacob took a bike from the ship's storage bay, a single-seat flyer. Before leaving, he looked back at Elias. If I don't make it, you'll make it, Elias said. Because if you don't, I'll tear down the galaxy until I find you again. Jacob smiled. That's what I'd do. Then he took off into the dark sky. The enemy ship followed. Elias watched the blinking lights fade away. Then he turned to the crew. Let's finish this. The humans had been hunted, used, broken, but now they were awake. Now, they were angry, and the Zareen were about to learn the worst truth in the galaxy. You can kill a human, but you cannot kill what comes next. On Earth, things were quiet. The Galactic Council was meeting again. Zareen leaders stood tall, calm, and proud, telling stories of peace. They smiled for cameras. They shook hands with human diplomats. No one spoke about Trelvon 6. No one asked what really happened to Lieutenant Jacob Rainey. The galaxy moved on, just like the Zareen wanted, but everything changed in one moment. A signal reached Earth's main defense station in the middle of the night. It wasn't sent through normal channels. It came in sharp, cracked waves full of static and heat. The machines almost blocked it, thinking it was junk. But a young technician named Kara noticed something strange in the signal. It had a human code. She cleaned it up, little by little, until a voice came through. "This is Commander Elias Rane. Urgent message. The Zareen are lying. Proof attached. They're using humans to build weapons." Alarms rang across the command center. More voices filled the air, recordings taken from the forge. Screams, experiments. A metal voice speaking Jacob's name again and again. Images followed. Scans of a creature with part human DNA, part machine, moving like a beast, thinking like a soldier. The room went silent. Everyone looked at the screen. This was no lie. The Zareen hadn't just attacked Jacob. They had built an army behind the galaxy's back. And Earth was next. The Human Council gathered within the hour. For once they agreed quickly. No more silence, no more waiting. They sent the message to every colony, every base, every planet. The Zareen Empire has committed acts of war. Earth declares a state of emergency. Prepare all forces. Across the stars, human ships started moving. Old war machines were powered up. Pilots returned to duty. The humans had always been strong. But now, they were angry. The truth spread fast. On Mars, people burned Zareen flags in the streets. On Luna Station, hackers broke into Zareen systems, crashing one of their satellite networks in under 10 minutes. On Earth, the president stood before a live feed and said clearly, "They killed one of our own. They built monsters from his mind. And they lied about peace. Now they will see what it means to cross a human." Meanwhile, on the small rocky moon near Trelvan 6, Elias and his crew were finishing repairs. The message had been sent. Earth knew the truth now. But their victory was not complete. Jacob was still out there, alone, being hunted. Elias paced inside the broken ship, jaw tight, heart racing. He had watched the enemy chase his brother into the sky and vanish. The signal from Jacob's bike was now gone, lost in the dust. "He gave us the time we needed," Elias said, looking at his crew. "Now we go give him what he needs." One of the engineers asked, "What's that?" Elias didn't smile. He only said, "Revenge." They fixed the ship enough to fly again. It wasn't perfect. The shields were weak, the weapons barely working, but it would fly. They scanned the moon and surrounding space, searching for any sign of Jacob or the enemy ship. Then they found it. Not Jacob, not the enemy ship, but a crash site. Smoke, burn marks, and a trail. They followed it, and what they saw made their blood run cold. Pieces of the enemy ship were scattered across the rocks, smashed and melted, as if something had torn it apart from the inside. Blades snapped, armor ripped open, but there was no sign of Jacob, just more blood and footprints. Elias touched one of the pieces. It was hot, even hours later. Something powerful had done this. "Either Jacob did this," he said quietly, "or something else is hunting now." They followed the trail to a cave deep in the mountains. Inside, the walls were covered in strange marks. Some were symbols, some were words, English and Zareen mixed together. Like someone had been here for days, writing, thinking, waiting, and at the back of the cave, a fire. A figure sat beside it, head down, silent. Elias stepped closer. "Jacob?" The figure stood slowly. It was Jacob, but not the same Jacob who left. His eyes were darker. His arms were wrapped in metal bands, torn from the enemy ship. His voice was calm but different. "I found out what I am," he said. Elias stared. "What do you mean?" "They didn't just copy my mind. They copied something else, something deep. Rage, memory, pain. I used it. I used them. I turned their creation against them. You killed it? Jacob nodded. It thought it could hunt me. It didn't know I was already hunting it. Elias stepped closer and put a hand on his brother's shoulder. You're not alone now. Earth knows. They're ready. Jacob looked. Toward the sky. Good, he said. Because this isn't over. Elias nodded. No, this is just the beginning. The Zareen wanted a secret war. But now the galaxy knew, and the real war was about to begin. The first human warship entered Zareen space like a silent ghost. No greetings, no warnings, just steel and fire. The Crimson Vow, a battle cruiser once retired, now carried Earth's fury in every cannon. Its mission was clear. Hit the Zareen deep, where they least expected it. On board, human soldiers waited, silent and ready. Many had seen war before, but this was personal. Commander Elias Rane stood at the front window, watching stars fly past. Jacob sat behind him, arms crossed, face calm but cold. He had changed. He moved quieter now, like a predator. The memories of the forge never left his mind. He had seen what the Zareen built and what they planned next. They have a facility on Dracos 5, Jacob said. Not just weapons, a full production line. They're building more like the thing that chased us. More of me. Elias nodded. We shut it down. Hard. The Crimson Vow reached the edge of Dracos 5. From above, the planet looked peaceful. Green fields, wide oceans, no signs of war. But underground, deep below the surface, metal crawled and burned. That's where the truth lived. The humans didn't. Wait. They dropped fast. Strike pods falling like rain. The Zareen were caught off guard. They had never fought humans directly. They believed Earth was weak, afraid, soft from years of peace. They were wrong. The first wave hit the facility's outer ring. Explosions lit up the sky. Human Marines stormed in, weapons hot, voices loud. For Jacob, for Earth, for the fallen. The Zareen fought back with drones, fast machines, sharp like insects. But they didn't move like soldiers. They didn't think like humans, and that was their mistake. Elias moved through the halls with precision. Every step was controlled, every shot landed. Behind him, Jacob broke through metal doors with his bare hands, tearing through steel as if it were paper. His body still carried the marks of the forge, but now he used those marks to destroy the ones who gave them. Room by room, they cleared. The base. But then they found something worse. In the center of the facility was a lab. And inside, dozens of pods. Each one held a half-human shape. Muscles, wires, eyes that twitched, even in sleep. The Zareen hadn't stopped. They had perfected the process. They're building an army, Elias said. A copy of us. Not just soldiers. Killers. Jacob walked slowly between the pods, staring at each one. Some of them looked like people he knew. Faces taken from old human records. Faces of dead soldiers, heroes, even civilians. The Zareen were playing God. Jacob raised his weapon. We burn this place. But before they could act, alarms screamed. Self-destruct, one of the Marines shouted. They're wiping it all. The ground shook. The walls cracked. The facility was collapsing. The team rushed back to the extraction point. Behind them, fire chased them like a living beast. One pod broke open. One of the creatures inside stumbled out, confused and violent. It screamed a sound that wasn't human. Jacob shot it without slowing down. They reached the top level just as the ground split in two. The ship pulled them up seconds before the explosion swallowed the facility. From space, Dracos 5 looked peaceful again, but now it was burning inside. The Crimson Vow escaped just in time. Back on the bridge, the crew was quiet. They had won. but it didn't feel like victory. "They're hiding more," Elias said. "More labs, more bases," Jacob nodded. "And they'll move them now. We hit them hard, but they'll adapt." A young officer stepped forward holding a data tablet. "Sir, we recovered something." Before the lab exploded, a list of planets. Coded locations. Elias took it and stared at the screen. 12 planets, 12 labs. One goal: destroy Earth and replace it with something obedient. Jacob looked at the stars. "This wasn't just an experiment," he said. "It was a blueprint." Elias tightened his grip on the tablet. "Then we break every piece of it." The galaxy thought humans were gone from war. They thought Earth had grown soft. But now they saw the truth. Humans weren't just back. They were leading the fire. And this time, they weren't fighting to survive. They were fighting to end it all. The stars were cold, silent. But inside the human ship, fire burned in every heart. After destroying the lab on Dracos 5, Earth's military now had a list of secret Czarine locations, hidden bases where terrible things were happening. Every name on the list was a wound, a scar left on the galaxy. The humans had decided to shut them all down, one by one. But the Czarine were ready now. They had seen the first strike. They had felt the power of human anger. And now they planned to fight back harder. Elias Rane stood over the war map in the command room of the Crimson Vow. Around him were officers, soldiers, and his brother Jacob. The map showed 12 red marks, each a lab or factory. Each one could be building more human-like weapons, but it was the last red mark that caught everyone's attention. It wasn't on any known planet. It wasn't even near a sun. It was floating deep in dead space, surrounded by black holes and radiation. "Why? Would they put a lab out there?" an officer asked. Jacob's voice was low. "Because it's not just a lab." Everyone turned to him. "It's the main source, the heart of the program. That's where they created the first hybrid, the one that copied my mind. It's where they built the system to copy human souls." The room went silent. Elias looked Jacob in the eyes. "Then that's the one we hit next." But it wouldn't be easy. The base, known in old files as Station Null, was defended by the Czarine's top weapons: AI-controlled fighters, energy traps, gravity mines. No living being had ever been near it and returned. Still, the humans launched the mission. 3 ships moved toward Station Null. Not just the Crimson Vow, but also the Iron Sky and the Black Lance. 2 of Earth's most powerful warships, brought out of retirement for one last mission. They reached the edge of dead space after 3 days, and then everything went wrong. A signal hit them, strong, sharp, and direct. It wasn't in words. It was an emotion. A pulse of fear sent from Station Null's systems. It didn't scare the humans. It made them angry. "That's not a defense," Elias said. "That's a warning. They know we're coming." The ships moved closer. Then, from the darkness, came the attack. Czarine drones launched by the thousands. Long black shapes with red eyes, flying fast, shooting faster. The battle began in silence. No explosions, no screams, just pure light and death in space. Humans fought hard. One by one, drones fell. But human ships took damage too. The Black Lance lost an engine. The Iron Sky lost 30 crew. And the Crimson Vow, it was hit by a mine that ripped a hole in its side. Still, they pushed forward. Inside Station Null, alarms rang. Czarine scientists ran. The AI controlling the base began destroying files, deleting memories, erasing everything. But they were too late. Jacob and a strike team reached the station. They fought room by room, just like before. But this time, it felt different. Colder, empty, and then they found it. A chamber full of human minds, stored like data. Thousands of voices, memories, fears, dreams, all taken from prisoners and soldiers. Some were screaming, some were broken, some were silent. Jacob froze. He saw his own name there, and next to it, the name of someone he never thought he'd see again. Maria Rane, his wife, dead for 5 years. But here, her mind was alive. "Jacob," Elias said, standing beside him. "We can't leave it." They uploaded what they could, saved as many minds as possible, but the system began to overload. The AI had triggered the final defense, a full-core meltdown. The entire station was going to explode. Jacob looked at the pod marked Maria. The data wasn't complete. If he moved her now, the memory might shatter. "She won't survive," he whispered. "You can't stay," Elias said, grabbing his arm. Jacob looked at the pod one last time. "I came here to end this," he said, "not to bring the past back." He turned away. They ran, fire followed. They barely made it to the ship. Behind them, Station Null exploded in a flash so bright it lit the edge of the galaxy. The warships turned, battered but alive. The mission was a success, but no one cheered. On the way back, Jacob sat alone in the medbay. He stared at a tiny drive in his hand. A small piece of Maria's memory had survived. Just a whisper. She had said one thing before the system crashed. "Tell Jacob I remember the stars." He closed his eyes. He remembered too. The price of vengeance was heavy. They had won a battle, but they had lost more than they saved. Elias came in quietly. "We're almost home," he said. Jacob nodded. "Then it's not over. The galaxy still thinks humans are monsters." Elias looked out the window. "Let's show them we're worse." The human fleet returned to Earth, flying slowly through space like tired warriors. Their ships were damaged, their crew wounded, but their mission was not over. Even after destroying Station Null, the humans knew one truth: the Zareen would not stop. They had other allies, other labs, and worse, other plans. The humans had stopped one nightmare, but more were waiting in the dark corners of the galaxy. Inside the command room of the Crimson Vow, Commander Elias Rane stared at the large screen. The last pieces of data from Station Null were loading. Fragments of Zareen messages, broken images, and strange sounds. Jacob sat nearby, quiet. He hadn't spoken much since Station Null. Not about Maria, not about what he saw. But the anger in his eyes had changed. It wasn't wild now. It was sharp, like a knife that knew where to cut. A technician turned to Elias. "Sir, we finished decoding the message. It's a final warning, or maybe a threat." "Play it," Elias said. Room went dark. The screen lit up. A face appeared. It was not fully Zareen. It was something else. Something mixed. A hybrid. Its voice was calm, cold. "To the humans of Earth, you are dangerous, not because of your weapons, not because of your strength, but because of your will. You do not surrender. You do not forget. You do not break. We made a mistake. We thought we could copy you, use you, control you. We were wrong." Then the face looked directly into the camera. "But now that we know, we will never stop watching. Never stop adapting. Your rage has cost you. How many more can you lose before you finally fall silent?" The message ended. The room was silent. Then Jacob stood up. "We lost people," he said. "We lost time. But they lost something too." "What?" someone asked. Jacob looked around the room. "They lost the lie." Elias nodded. "The galaxy thinks we're still banned, that humans are dangerous, out of control. But maybe it's time they know the truth." He sent out a command. Across the galaxy, human channels lit up. One by one, the story of the mission was broadcasted. What the Zareen had done, what humans had found, and what they destroyed. Every species watched. Every Alliance Council member, heard. They saw the experiments, the hybrids, the stolen memories, the copies of human soldiers used like tools. Some were shocked, some were silent, but many were afraid. For the first time, they didn't fear humans because of what they might. They feared humans for what they had endured. On Earth, people gathered in the streets, watching the broadcasts. They saw footage of Jacob tearing through metal walls, of Elias leading soldiers through fire, of the station exploding like a dying star. A new voice rose across Earth, not one of fear, but of pride. They hurt us, and we survived. They tried to copy us, and we fought back. We are human, and we remember. The galaxy wanted to ban humanity from war. Now the galaxy was asking them to lead it, not out of hate, not for revenge, but because humans had seen the worst, and still stood. Back on the Crimson Vow, Jacob received one final file, a small audio message. It was corrupted, weak, but he recognized the voice. Maria. Her whisper was broken, but real, live. Please, live. For both of us. Jacob smiled for the first time in weeks. He placed the file in a special container, not as a weapon, as a reminder. Elias came to stand beside him. "It's time," he said. "For what?" Jacob asked. "To send the message." Elias turned to the camera, to the same channel the Zareen had used. He spoke clearly, slowly. "You tried to destroy one of us. You tried to replace us. You thought we would vanish. We are still here. We are not your weapons. We are not your slaves. We are human, and now we are awake." The message spread across the stars. Aliens who had mocked Earth now watched in silence. Those who had feared humans now realized their fear was correct, because the worst thing had happened. The humans had suffered, and now they had nothing left to lose. The story didn't end with a battle. It ended with a promise, a warning, and a hope that no one, ever again, would forget what humans were capable of when pushed too far.